Guys, this is Prashant Rao. It's Monday, May 11th, and um, just thought I'll look at a few charts, do some analysis. Um, let's start with the one I've been talking about for some time, which is gold. And um, interestingly, gold is still within that same pattern. You have the descending triangle, and then you have your double top. Now the tops are getting shorter and shorter. So essentially it's turned into a full descending triangle. The thing to note is, although it does look like a descending triangle, you can see that here each time the low was higher, so it was a higher low. And so if you connect these, it kind of becomes a little bit like a continuation pattern. So it's hard to say which way it's going to go now. And that's kind of how the market likes to trick you. uh, Sometimes the patterns are just not obvious. So it could either be a descending triangle, it could be a continuation pattern. So we'll see. As of now, um, I don't know, but I might put a buy stop here and stop loss here to see if um, that yields anything. But it's kind of becoming challenging to figure out where this is headed. So let's move on to S&P. So S&P, it's not reached its previous high yet. We'll see what happens. My guess was we would see some kind of resistance around this area, 2950 level. And that's mainly because it's getting close to its 200-day moving average. And this is an important level to watch out for. If it fails to break the 200 and stay there, we might be retesting the lows, or we might go much lower. Something to watch out for. Nasdaq is roaring as always. So it's now starting to cover this futures gap that was left off back when the market collapsed. My sense is it might do the same. It might get all the way here and then encounter some resistance at the previous top. On the weekly level, last week I mentioned that we were about to see an outside reversal. That did happen, so it did turn out to be an outside reversal, and that usually means the market is going to be headed higher. So my suspicion is will come somewhere here near the top, and then we'll have to see what kind of pattern unfolds at that point in time. Let's take a look at Russell. Russell's kind of struggling to reach its previous highs. Not a good sign. We'll see what happens. Nothing clear at this point from Russell. But as you can see, there is clear divergence between the Russell, S&P, and Nasdaq. So Russell is the small caps, which are currently far more beaten down than the larger caps, and the mega caps, the tech stocks are all here, and well, they are the least affected at this point. And so let's move on to take a look at oil. There may be some opportunities here. The last time I was I thought this would turn into a double top, and I placed an order here, which didn't go through. So the double top kind of just continued, and we'll have to see where this is heading. If it gets all the way down here, then that would be a continuation of this double top. And normally when you see such a long period of time, I mean, this is not really a long period of time, it's an hourly chart, but in case you do see this kind of a pattern unfold for a long period of time, and then it slowly starts going downward, then it is very likely that you'll see a precipitous drop. So it's you got to be really careful of a sleepy market, because it could just move and down or move up really fast. So right now it's looking a bit sleepy. So we'll see what happens. If it crosses this neckline, it's likely going to head down really fast. So watching for this one, see what happens. Let's take a look at a few Forex pairs. US dollar, Japanese yen. So I'm currently short the US dollar, Japanese yen, and today there was a big jump in the USD in the yen, and sorry, in the dollar, and so it moved up here and higher in the chart. And I'm personally waiting for such opportunities. There are very few times when you want the market to kind of go against you, and this is one of those cases. And I would really want this to get higher so that I can get ready to short at a higher level. Because if, as I mentioned, if you look at the longer term charts, it's clear that this is going to be headed downward. There's absolutely no way it's going to form a pattern like this with a descending triangle. It's not going to rocket high until it reaches at least this point. So it's got to touch here, and if at all anything happens, and for some reason it happens to go up, then it's still got to touch here, most likely. And I am waiting for a pattern formation so I can go short. So today was the first jump that we saw. Let's look at Australian dollar, US dollar, another pair that I'm really bullish on. Seems to have formed a double top, so might see some short-term weakness, or it might extend. If you look at the weekly, it might go all the way down here, or we're still, unfortunately this doesn't have, let's try to, yeah, so it might get down to this level here, which is level in 2002. Could very well happen, highly unlikely, but anything can happen. So, but longer term, there's no doubt that this is going to be bullish. It's going to rocket higher all the way from here, most likely even until $1. So watching that one. And then let's look at Euro USD. So the dollar index showed some strength today. We'll see whether this moves any higher. It's kind of unlikely, but if investors all over the world think that there's a round two of the pandemic, they're going to all flock to the dollar. So it might touch its previous level here if it does, and then come all the way down. Not expecting that scenario, but just being cognizant of what might happen. So you might see something like this unfold, or you might see more choppiness, and then eventually it may head to the downside. So watching this as well, the dollar is heavily weighted against the euro. So helps to look at Euro USD. Euro USD clearly is bearish, and I mean from all angles. So if you look at the most recent days, I mean it's almost crossed the neckline, and it's going to head all the way down here, and possibly even further if you look at the weekly, for example, or the monthly, which is even more clear. So again, these are unlikely scenarios, but you got to be prepared in the Forex market. Worst case scenario is it might touch all the way here, and we don't know how many months that's going to take. It might move really fast, or it might chop around like this really slowly. So we'll have to see. My current sense is we'll probably touch this level, and again it's going to chop around, form some kind of a bottom formation, and then start to head higher if at all it does go higher. There's a lot of political risks in the euro and the eurozone, so that explains the weakness here. A while ago it felt like this had formed a triple bottom and even crossed the neckline, and then there was a bull trap. It just went higher and then started chopping all the way back. So watching carefully. I'm currently short the the Euro USD, at least for the near term. Let's go into pound USD. Pound USD is also headed downward. On the daily, you can see this double top. It's crossing the neckline. So again, the neckline might not necessarily be straight. So you kind of have to observe where the price action is and then decide what your neckline is. So it might be tilted, and that's particularly true of head and shoulders like pattern, and you could very well have a neckline that is tilted. It doesn't have to be straight. So my sense is we'll likely retest this area. So I'm currently short pound USD. We'll watch that. Let's move on to let's see what else. There are a lot of these pairs that have similar patterns, but they haven't. Not all of them are broken out yet. For example, this one. So watching to see what happens to these. My current sense is given if the Fed does another round of stimulus, we're likely to these supports are likely to break, and then we might see more downside. I don't like to speculate on what the Fed would do or would not do. And the Forex market is it pre-prices things years ahead of time. Stock market pre-prices 3 to 30 months. The Forex market tends to pre-price years and years in advance. So the price is very likely ahead of the news, and the price will tell us what the Fed is going to be doing. So the only thing I watch for is the price. Doesn't mean I'm not interested in what's going on, but in the end, it's the price that matters. So here we are. So we'll watch this closely. There are many pairs that are similar formations. So watching those pretty closely. And let's look at Amazon. I think we've been looking at that the last 3 times. Double top, neckline, crossed it, and now it's starting to head upward. At this point, it has not reached the top yet. So again, one of those cases where it might just drop like a rock, and you might, of course, that's going to be reflected in the overall index, and the entire market will get pulled down. Or the other scenario, which is equally likely, is it might rocket higher. Um, Given the uncertainty in the markets, it's extremely difficult to predict which way it might go. It might go either ways. So I'm not one that would really like to place any bets in either direction at this point in time. Uh, the risk is just not worth it. Um, I mean, the risk is way more than the rewards, in my opinion. So, see what some of the other stocks are saying. Moving higher, moving higher. So it looks like all the FANG stocks in general are starting to move higher, and this might cover this gap here. So it looks like we have some more upside left, but again, given that we're going to be reaching major tops, I mean, there are much better opportunities than trying to chase the market here at this point. So that's all for now, and hope you enjoyed the video. Would love to see any comments. If you are interested in any particular instruments, let me know. I generally don't trade stocks a whole lot, except when I see good opportunities. I mean, it's just too uncertain at this point in time, and things can go either way. There are much better opportunities in the Forex markets. All right, thanks again, and I'll see you next time.